Going on YouTube? Glorbells here, back with another Series 12 team building video, and talk about using a restricted that isn't used all that often. We're looking at Ho-Oh today on a Groudon Sun team. So this is one that I've been looking at for a little bit, right? And just on the side, you know, as a side thing for all the mainstream stuff. But you know, Ho-Oh is always an interesting one to try and use because, like, you know, in theory, it does well against Zacian, right? You know, it resists the fighting move. You know, you resist Behemoth Blade. And then even the fairy move, the play rough, you also resist, right? Because you're fire typing. But when you consider everything else, it's in a bit of a spot, right? Because you lose to the Kyogre. You know, it's hard against the Calyrex, especially the ice one. If it can get Trick Room up, you know, you just get Intimidate spammed by Incineroar. You know, Landorus does that too, and then Landorus has a Rock move. Groudon, an opposing Groudon can always click Rock Slide, but then again, you always have Sacred Fire in the Sun against it. So it makes it a little bit hard. Then there's like Regieleki stuff, you know, Max Lightning. You know, Ho doesn't want to have to deal with that. So the Ho has, you know, a lot of things going against it, and they're really the only niche that it has, right? Is the Zacian matchup, right? It does very well against Zacian. Now, that being said, there's the Dynamax factor, and then you always have Airstream, right? You can always get speed control on things, and then, you know, if you look at that special defense bulk, 154 is actually really good. You know, base 106 HP. The 90 defense is also kind of cool. You know, it's almost like Kyogre a little bit. You know, it's bulky, a little bit more on the special defensive side. But then again, you know, you just have to consider, like, all right, how do I support Ho-Oh where, you know, I don't die to Regieleki or I don't die to Kyogre, right? So one thing you can do is put it on a Sun team, right? So Groudon can take away Kyogre's rain, and then Groudon's a ground type. You know, you can always defensively pivot, and then Regieleki maybe wants to think twice about coming into the matchup, right? Or maybe wants to think twice about clicking the electric move, right? And then from here, yeah, the Intimidate cycling, right? Groudon also doesn't like Intimidate, and neither does Ho-Oh. So then how do we, like, discourage the opponent from bringing that? So there's a couple things you have to consider when trying to build this team with Ho-Oh and Groudon here. But one thing you can do is, again, put on a partner on the team that Groudon can enable that does well against the Kyogre, first of all, right? And I think Venusaur is that partner. So Venusaur, you know, just being able to be fast and abuse the Sun, good against Gastrodon, good against Kyogre, good against, you know, Blastoise, Tapu Fini, you know, all these water types that are running around. So relatively good to have on the team, right? Thank you, Venusaur. And then you always have like the sleep powder stuff that you can take advantage of. And now the opponent is, you know, has to deal with the Venusaur a little bit more so than the Ho-Oh, okay? But is the Venusaur enough? No, it is not. So what else do I need to have on the team? Well, I think just having screen support is just really, really nice, right? So I think Grimmsnarl has to come here. Grimmsnarl behind, you know, Grimmsnarl with screens, and then Ho-Oh having Regenerator is also really nice because being able to defensively pivot, you know, your Ho-Oh in and out behind screens where you're not taking a bunch of damage, and then Regenerator where you heal up that damage when you switch it in, is actually really good because then you could potentially win the end game if it becomes a long dragged out game, right? So Regenerator is also really good for that. So, and then the other thing you can do is, you know, have that Grimmsnarl Groudon lead, you know, set up screens. Groudon just becomes bulky, hard to kill. And then, you know, even Venusaur can come in the game at the end and then just Dynamax behind screens. And then get off those Vine Lash chips and then make things really, really easy for Ho and Groudon to pick up, right? So a lot of things going for it. You know, we got screen support. We have something for the Kyogre. We have something to help us out a little bit with the Regieleki, with the Groudon stuff, and even Thundurus, right? Because like Thundurus can just max zap our Ho, but you know, we have a Groudon here. And then what else do we need? So, you know, screens with Venusaur is nice, Groudon is nice. That's good for Kyogre. Even more so, I think, is Gastrodon to come into this team, right? Because now Kyogre is really, really, you know, he really has something to think about here because if the Kyogre clicks the Water Spout and then you can just switch out the Ho, bring in the Gastrodon on switching, and then, you know, Venusaur and Groudon are kind of chilling, especially if you have screens, right? If anything, you could just bring these four, right? These four can actually do really well against Kyogre. But, you know, if they have the Zacian, then you have to kind of include the Ho a little bit. But again, it's all very manageable. I think this is great synergy here. You have double ground type, and the Gastrodon's really, really nice. You can even put pressure on like Incineroars as well, you know, with the Max Quake stuff. And then Landorus, you know, because Ho-Oh doesn't like Landorus, Groudon doesn't like Landorus, Venusaur doesn't like Landorus. If you have Gastrodon here with the Ice move, you're kind of chilling. And what's also good about Gastrodon is we're gonna make it so that it's slower, aka faster than the Calyrex Ice Rider in Trick Room. So this way, we'll have the speed advantage, and then we can always click Yawn and sort of mitigate that threat a little bit. Okay, so a lot of cool tools here. We got Fire, Water, Grass, Core on our team, which is always nice. Now, how do we help out the Intimidate spam against Ho-Oh and Groudon here? So I think just Thundurus just makes so much sense here for our 6th slot, because you know what you could do is you could lead Thundurus Ho-Oh or Thundurus Gastrodon. I'm sorry, Thundurus Groudon, and if they lead their Landorus or Incineroar to try and Intimidate spam the Groudon or Ho-Oh, you just gave Thundurus a Defiant boost, and now you can start going for those hard-hitting Airstreams, make the Groudon or Ho-Oh faster. Even Venusaur can benefit from the Airstream boost. And then if you have Brick Break on the Thundurus, which we will have, you know, if they're hiding behind screens, we can break it, which also becomes Max Knuckle, and now your Groudon and Ho-Oh all of a sudden now have a +1 attack boost. So now they're just, you know, they could just potentially sweep teams just from this. With the Dynamax Thundurus here. So I think it makes a lot of sense, because when you look at this team, you know, I can't just say, oh, I'm going to lead Incineroar, I'm going to lead Landorus, I'm just going to click Airstream and chill. You can't do that a little bit, because first of all, we got the Thundurus, we have the Grimmsnarl, we have the Gastrodon, so they have to almost play it a little bit carefully when they see this, right? Ho-Oh looks easy, but then when you look at the other 5, it's like, I got to think a little more, right? So that's the thing. And now we'll just go ahead and reveal the GIFs, and then we'll show you how we're going to do our movesets, our EVs, and our items. So we got Ho-Oh and Groudon here. We have the Venusaur, our Sun Abuser. Gastrodon, a little bit more security against the Kyogre. Grimmsnarl, really good against mitigating damage from those hyper-offensive teams, especially against Calyrex Shadow Rider. And then Thundurus, just to make the opponent think twice about bringing Landorus or Incineroar on lead, right? So that's our 6, so let's go ahead and start building the rest of the team. Okay, so let's start with Ho-Oh's item and moveset here. So we're going to keep it relatively standard with our Ho-Oh. Of course, Sacred Fire is really, really nice. I mean, no Zacian wants to take a Sacred Fire in the sun. No Groudon wants to take Sacred Fire in the sun, because one burn can just ruin the entire game plan, right? Even Calyrex Ice Rider, there's no Trick Room. There's Sun out. You're not taking this Sacred Fire, all right? It's not a good move to take. 50% chance, I understand, but you know, just the fact that it can OHKO is really, really nice against a lot of those threats. So Sacred Fire is good. Brave Bird, again, good strong max Airstream move. Recover over time. You know, if you can hit Recover behind screens, you know, you could just have that end game option of just potentially stalling the opponent, almost like the Porygon rule, right? And then from here, I think Protect just makes a lot of sense. Now for our item, you know, you can go Safety Goggles, but I think what's even better is like Lumberry stuff, where, you know, you don't want to get slept or even paralyzed, because, you know, Thunder Wave is a thing, and just having that Lumberry is good. And if they Yawn your Ho-Oh, you can almost just chill there, and they expect you to switch, but then you just stay in, and then you go for like a hard-hitting move, and then they think, oh, okay, I died, but now he just goes to sleep. Wrong, because we have the Berry. So I really like Lumberry over the Safety Goggles for that reason. Okay, and you know, just Grimmsnarl Thunder Wave is just a pain in the butt. Speaking of that, we have that here, but we're not gonna be running Thunder Wave. Groudon here. So again, here's my belief on Groudon, right? Because most players expect you to be Assault Vest, right? They're gonna think you don't have Protect. They're gonna try and double in the Groudon slot. They're gonna, you know, Intimidate cycle to the end of time and think you have no way to get your attack back up. But in fact, you will, because we're gonna be running that Swords Dance Protect set. That has been consistent always since, you know, Sword and Shield, the restricted formats have begun, I should say. Because now you surprise the opponent by clicking Swords Dance on Incineroar swap in, and then, or even Landorus swap in, and then all of a sudden now Groudon becomes a big Dynamax threat. And then, you know, you can always lead Venusaur stuff with Groudon, you know, sleep one target, Swords Dance again, and then next turn sleep again, and then Dynamax the Groudon, and then, you know, you're just kind of chilling. So really, really nice to have the Citrus Berry Swords Dance set. Venusaur, we're going to be using my favorite Venusaur set, you know, because we have a Grimmsnarl on the team. If you remember how we built Venusaur in the beginning of the format, anytime there's a Grimmsnarl, we're going with the good old Colin spread, not the Colin spread, but the Colin type of build with Rogov, and and Audi. Weakness policy, Venusaur is going to be the play. Leaf Storm, Earth Power, Weather Ball, you know, max flare stuff, and finally, there's a Sleep Powder here. So I always like Venusaur. So the way this works is you're going to be very bulky. You're going to be able to take an Airstream from a Landers behind screens. You're going to get a +2 boost, and then your Groudon is all of a sudden going to be able to swap in, give yourself your Venusaur a speed boost now, and now you have a hard hitting +2, you know, Max Quake, +2, you know, G Max Vine Lash, or you know, a Weather Ball thing. So really nice to have. Weakness policy Venusaur is scary because especially in like best of 3, when they look at the team sheet and they see your weakness policy, now they're all of a sudden they're like, he's not Sash. Hold on a second. I gotta make sure that, you know, I deal enough damage, because if this Venusaur gets this weakness policy proc, it's not good news. So it's that fear factor a little bit. Grimmsnarl set, of course, it's gonna be screens here, so I think Light Clay makes a lot of sense. Spirit Break, really good against opposing Yveltals, opposing Palkia. Palkia does not want to deal with Grimmsnarl. And you have the Gastrodon for the Palkia as well, so it's gonna help a lot here. Reflect, Light Screen, really good for Ho-Oh, especially being able to pivot behind those screens. And then finally, Scary Face. You know, you want to be able to Scary Face that Landers if you need to try and potentially outspeed it and KO it, right? So Gastrodon here, I think Leftovers just makes more sense. And then Ice Beam and Earth Power are good moves. Yawn, of course, and then you can go Recover here. I think Protect is always good. You know, Protect is good in VGC, right? You might as well just go with it. And then finally, the Thundurus here, we're going to make it aggressive Thundurus. Life Orb is what we want with Wild Charge, Max Airstream from Fly, Brick Break, break opposing screens, and then Max Knuckle, you know, boost up Groudon and Ho a little bit, and of course Protect. A lot of Protect on this team. Protect, you know, Protect, you know, 4 Protect is good. And, you know, behind screens is always really nice. I also do want to mention, like, when there's Trick Room up, you know, you can just lead your Grimmsnarl, right? And then just click screens and install those Trick Room turns, and then Gastrodon, just click Yawn on things, and now, you know, all of a sudden they don't really want to click Trick Room. So yeah, all right, so I think we got all the moves and items here. Yes, we do. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the EVs. Okay, so with Ho-Oh here, the main thing, again, whenever you do your EVs for your Pokemon, right, in competitive, you always want to do your speed tier first. All right, we put out a couple videos on like speed tiers and trying to do EVs, so hopefully you give those a watch, so this way this makes more sense. But I see I'm a base 90 mon, and I'm already thinking a couple things. I can just play it bulky, play it slower, and, you know, take a look at one fast threat that I want to try and outspeed, right? And right away, I'm already thinking Thundurus, because Thundurus, you know, doesn't, you know, you can just click Airstream against Venusaur, you can click Airstream against Ho-Oh. I'm sorry, Max Lightning, and you want to be able to outspeed that Thundurus before it can come in and do something, right? So I think just going for this 120 mark is ideal. But here's the thing, we're going to be doing the same thing on our Groudon. So what we want to do is this. So 120 on our Groudon, but then we don't want to speed tie with Ho-Oh, so we'll go 1 point faster on the Ho-Oh. So this way 121 is good, because then you can click Airstream first, make your Groudon faster, right? That's how it goes. And then and then Groudon all of a sudden now can go for that Precipice Blades and double hit everything, right? Because if Groudon's going first before Ho, it's a little bit weird because you get off an attack and then you click Airstream. Not ideal. You want the Airstream to boost the Groudon first and then go for that P-Blades play. Anyway, so our attacking stat, we're just going to go second EV bump here. The first one is here, you know, at 76 investment. You go from 174 to 176. So another 80 EVs will get us to the second attack punch, second attack bump, okay, I should say. So 187 is our stat. So you see how we go from 185 to 187. We went up by 2. And this is our second EV bump benchmark. 204 HP investment just to get us to that 207 benchmark. Optimizes regenerator recovery because you recover a third of your HP per turn. I believe it's like 69 flat when you pivot hit Ho-Oh in and out. This also helps against you know, Max Hailstorm chip and then Sand chip, which we will be taking because we don't have goggles. So really nice to have that over here. And then from here, a little bit of special defense, not too much. You know, 154 base is already really good. But I do want that even number just to help me out if I ever Dynamax Groudon, Venusaur, or even Gastrodon, just to have an even number and get the best bang for my buck with Max Quake. And then you see I have 52 EVs left over. I'm just gonna dump that in defense. You know, just might as well, right? You know, you could do attack where, you know, you can just pump out a little bit more damage. I think that's okay too. But I'd much rather appreciate the physical bulk because you never know when you're going to need it, right? And this actually helps against landers. And I'll show you some of those calcs when we get the damage calc. But yeah, Groudon. So we already talked about that speed tier with our Groudon. A little bit faster than most Groudons. You know, most Groudons are between like, you know, 112 to about 116. So you can go 117 Groudon if you want, but it's a little awkward. I'd rather just outspeed the Thundurus and just go straight to 120, right? And we're going to be a little bit more of a bulky Groudon, and you have the option, right? Either you could do Groudon like this, where we have 244 investment, first bump in the attack, 1 point in defense, and then the rest just gets dumped here in special defense. You can do this, or you can do the other route and just go second bump here, and where is it? Something like this, where you have a stronger, harder hitting Groudon, but a little bit less bulky with the special defense. I mean, you do have a Grimmsnarl here, but up to you. For me, this is really all I need from Groudon on this kind of team. You know, 198 is already pretty good. So this is all I need from my Groudon. I have a Swords Dance anyway, so you know, I don't need so much attack. I'd rather have the bulk on my Groudon. Venusaur. So what I also like to do in our Venusaur here, first of all, we're going modest. So this is going to be a little bit of a slower Venusaur, but still a faster one, where we're going to go with 204 investment, 126. So this will become 252, which is enough to outspeed base 100s that already have a +1 airstream boost, right? So something like Charizard or Zapdos, if they already have a +1, your Venusaur still outspeeds it. So this way, if you click Sleep Powder once and you missed, you have one more chance to click another Sleep Powder because you're still faster than it, and potentially turn the tides of the game. And then from here, you just need one bump in the special attack department. You're going for the weakness policy boost here, even if you don't get it off, right? That's fine, because the main thing is to get the Vine Lash chip off anyway, just so that way your Groudon and your Ho-Oh can clean up from the back. But if they do give you the policy boost, you know, we need some bulk to be able to take these hits. So again, even number in the special defense department, just to get a nice bang for your buck for max Quake. But 175 in the HP stat. So this way, once again, you're optimizing that Hail and Sand chip if they ever change your weather, and then the rest just gets dumped into physical defense, something like this. I think it's relatively good. Or you can even go a tiny bit faster and go to 212. I think this makes a little also fine in terms of damage, but you know, if you're fine with 126, you can just put one more extra point in defense, and that's okay. Grimmsnarl, we'll use the same Grimmsnarl spread we've always been using, and that's calc to live a Zacian Adamant Behemoth Blade with Reflect Up and you know, potentially a -1 that we can get the Incineroar. However, that being said, we don't quite have the Intimidate on the team, but we will still use the spread, right? So careful nature here. 116 investment. All right, a little bit of speed. This is all we need over here, and then 220 investment. Now, that being said, you can go a little bit quicker just to outspeed those Grimmsnarls, but I think the bulk is very much appreciated. So we'll just keep it like this, and then that's that. Gastrodon. So I did mention with the Gastrodon here, if we run relaxed, right, this will give us the advantage in Trick Room, especially if we have no speed Gastrodon, because now we're faster than the Calyrex if he ever does click the Trick Room button, right? So we just want to be bulky. 172 investment, again, that 208 mark. Now you might say, well, how come these are for, like, you know, 207 over here? Well, that's because Gastrodon has leftovers, right? So we actually want the opposite. We actually want to hit the threshold, so this way we get that perfect flat number recovery from the leftovers. And if you do the math real quick on your calculator, 208 divided by 16, that's 13. So you get a flat 13 recovery per turn with leftovers. And then from here, you can just go and hit the bump here with defense, and you know, that's at 121 over here, and then you can just dump the rest in special defense. 156 investment, but I do want that even number once again, so I'm just going to leave it at 156, and then just put 1 more point in defense, and there you go. There's our Gastrodon spread, ladies and gentlemen. A very bulky slug, a slow, bulky slug that's meant to be annoying with Yawn stuff. And then Thundurus, you know, max speed jolly, always. You know, you don't want to lose speed ties against other Thunduruses, and then just a little bit of life orb optimization, 1 point in the bulk on both sides, and then just the rest just goes into the attack stat, right? So yeah, that's pretty much how we did it. All right, again, all we did was, you know, take into account, you know, speed tiers, you know, benchmarks, and maybe throw in a little calc here and there, right? There is a Ho-Oh calc for this, and I'll show you what it is in a second, but let's just go ahead and put up the paste here. Okay, I think it's a good team that does well to try and make Ho-Oh work. You got that Fire, Water, Grass core. You have answers for Intimidate, which Ho-Oh doesn't like. Neither does Groudon. You have stuff for Kyogre. You know, Venusaur, Gastrodon, and screens is going to be good. Change the weather with Groudon. Zacian, you know, again, it's going to struggle against Ho-Oh and Groudon a little bit. And to a degree, Venusaur, because we have Max Flare, you know, thanks to Weather Ball. Calyrex Shadow, the screens are really good. And, you know, Ho-Oh and Gastrodon are very, very bulky. You have answers to it. And you can always outspeed it with Venusaur too, right? You know, if you break the sash, that's it. Ho-Oh and Groudon can clean up from there. Calyrex, the Ice Rider, again, you have Yawn pressure, you know, with screens. If they ever do go for the Trick Room, you know, it's going to work against them. So the Slug is really nice, especially if it's bulkier variant, right? Because then the Gastrodon really helps out. Now, if it's Feeny, if the Feeny comes out, if they have the Feeny, then you have to go with the Venusaur route, which is okay. Venusaur does relatively okay against the Palkia, unless they're running Max Flare, but you know, that's another story for another day. But yeah, plenty of answers on the team, you know, a lot of good utility. There's speed control options, especially with Scary Face, and you know, you always have Sleep with status stuff. You have Airstream, you know, you have a lot of answers for a lot of things. So let me just show you a couple quick calcs, and then we'll test it out in a couple battles on Showdown. So let me start off with the Venusaur over here. So the Venusaur against like a 252 Dynamax Landers. So the Airstream, first of all, like if this is not Life Orb Landers, and he just goes for Airstream, no screens. We actually lived that Airstream, by the way. You know, 74 to 88%. We lived that Airstream. Most Landerses are starting to go with that White Herb variant, you know, because they like White Herb. They don't want to get Intimidate spam. And our Vine Lash is going to do a whole lot of damage to a Dynamax Landers, I must say. Now, if it has Life Orb, okay, for the few that are running Life Orb, I could have just typed it in. Now, the Airstream will kill you without the screens. But if you have the screens, once again, your Venusaur is just kind of chilling, 76%. If it's a high roll, and then again, you still take that, and you're still able to go for Vine Lash, and you still outspeed it, by the way. I might want to add. So then you can just kill it next turn, and now you have a +2 Venusaur. You know, swap in that Groudon or, you know, Scary Face with Grimmsnarl stuff. You outspeed everything. So really, really nice to know over there. So let's take a look at Ho-Oh. Okay, this is Life Orb Regieleki against Ho-Oh, right? So look at this. That is a weakness policy. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Because we have the Lumberry. So Life Orb Timid Regieleki, if it's going for stuff like Rising Voltage, Electro Web, I mean, that Rising Voltage does a lot, but not enough to kill it, and Sacred Fire can almost just one-shot it. In fact, it will kill the Eleki because Life Orb Chip will take it out if the Sacred Fire does not kill. But again, if this is like Thunderbolt instead of like Rising Voltage, this is, okay, look at that. So Thunderbolt, again, we do live that, right? So 84 to 99, this is where that special defense bump, not bump, but special defense investment does come in handy. We can't take one Regieleki Thunderbolt, no screens needed, okay? And then, you know, Sacred Fire, you know, maybe we get the chip off. Even if we don't, we just kill the Eleki anyway. With Light Screen, we live everything comfortably. And then if there's a Dynamax and a Dynamax here, even if there's no screens, Max Lightning, 71%, but, you know, Max Flare, good damage. Airstream also, and not so great damage, but, you know, it is what it is. But if you have the Light Screen, now nothing is even doing 50%, you know, if this is a timid Life Orb Eleki. So Light Screen from Grimmsnarl is very, very important. You know, the fact that you can not do 50% damage unless you crit is always really, really nice for Ho-Oh. So I did want to show you that. Now let's go to something like Landorus. and even take a look at Groudon, because you know those are the ones with the rock moves. So standard Lando once again, with no item, but again here's Rock Slide, 73 to 87% damage. So our Ho-Oh bulk is good. You know, no screens needed. If there was screens, again 48 to 57, not bad. You know, not too great, but again, you know, you have Brave Bird, good damage. Wow, that's actually really good damage against Thundurus. This Brave Bird. Thundurus is not that bulky. Dynamax Factor, however, oh, that was with Reflect, that's why. So Dynamax Factor, so he Dynamaxes, I Dynamax. Rockfall, we do live. We do live. No screens. Okay, this is the EV spread, right? No screens. But we will die with the Hail Chip at the end of the turn. So you do want to take into account that. But if you can potentially KO the Landorus after you take the Rockfall, you know, if there was some chip damage going on, that's what we want, right? But if we have Reflect, okay, now we're okay. But again, we can take one Rockfall if it's not Life Orb, right? We can take at least one, so that's always good. And that's only if he gets the high roll, right? So I'm very proud that our Ho-Oh can live the Landorus, right? But now that being said, you know, if it's Groudon, depending on their investment, Groudon can pick up this KO. If it's second EV bump, you know, 156 nature, I think it can pick it up. So because then instead of 197, it's like 209, something like that. So Groudon unfortunately will pick up this KO, but with Reflect, once again, we will live the Groudon stuff, and I know that because if this is Landorus, Groudon is a little bit more, but not that much more. So we can take one, and then he just boosts me in the sun with the max player stuff. So that's always kind of cool if Groudon can do that. But I just wanted to show those two calcs with Ho-Oh and Venusaur. The rest is relatively standard. So let's just go ahead and take a look at some sample battles now. Okay, so this is Groudon Eternatus, holy cow. But the thing is, there's no enabler from the Groudon. I don't see a Charizard, I don't see a Venusaur. Groudon looks really good against his Groudon team because we have Precipice Blades against his Incineroar, against his Eternatus, and then even the Finny and Grimmsnarl, they don't really want to take Precipice Blades. The only threat is the Thundurus, but Thundurus, what does he really do against Groudon and our Gastrodon? Really, not a whole lot. Good against our Ho-Oh, but we have a lot of tools. So his Eternatus is actually not in a great spot, but he has answers, right? So I feel like we still just lead Venusaur Groudon, and you know, we can just put stuff to sleep. If he does bring the Finny, I do want to force it out because then I can Dynamax the Venusaur and just remove the Finny. So he does with Grimmsnarl Groudon lead. So this tells me he's probably going for screens and maybe a max flare into my Venusaur. So I do want to put this Groudon to sleep potentially, and he decides to max. There's my Reflect. I do want to mitigate some of that damage. I do put it to sleep, but he's actually Lumberry. So there's a nice tech move on your Groudon. So that means he's not Assault Vest. That's one thing. So I just lost my Venusaur for free on turn 1. But again, I didn't max, so that's always good. Now I can max, and I do want to at least get some chip on that Grimmsnarl. He's actually Swagger Grim, so there's no Lumberry from him. We do get a crit, which is fortunate. Now, see how much he does to me? Not a whole lot, because Groudon is very bulky. And we do some great chip damage on his Grimmsnarl with the Spirit Break. He flatters me, confuses me. I don't get hit by the confusion, so I'm thankful for that. He crits my Grimmsnarl, which is unfortunate, because then, you know, I could have been chilling. But I do have a Reflect against Groudon, so there's that. He probably goes into Instant, which he does, so he intimidates both my Groudon and my Ho-Oh. I did not want to take a potential dark move there, so I did protect my Ho-Oh that turn. Max Quick on the Groudon, always good. So a lot of special defense in case he does have the Eternatus in the back, which is what I'm preparing for. The Precipice Blades, enough to take out the Groudon, which is good. A little bit of chip damage removes the berry from the Incineroar. Here comes the Grimmsnarl yet again, and it's actually Finny that comes in. So that tells me there's no Eternatus, which is actually interesting. That's great damage from Brave Bird, even though I'm intimidated. So that shows you Ho-Oh here. Now the Reflect is not really going to be helping me out that much because the Groudon's already dead, but it does help me later in the game. So this is +2 Finny with the Flatter, and we still live, thank God. So we have our investment. This is where Groudon Berry really comes in handy, and we're able to pick up there. And then I just go for Swords Dance because I know Incineroar is coming in. And now, even if he fakes out, which he does, I can recover on my Ho-Oh. So he has to give me one. He can't give me both. There's the foul play, but very unfortunately we do live because we're only 76 investment Groudon. There's more chip damage with the Brave Bird. We missed the Incineroar, but we do take out the Grimmsnarl, so that's okay. And now it's just Ho-Oh versus Incin. And now I just have to recover. I should be able to win this. He crits me again, by the way. But yeah, again, I just recover. A little bit less damage with Throat Chop, so now I can just Brave Bird. And now I should just win the game, because unless he crits here, it's over, but he just goes for Parting Shot. I don't even think the crit would have saved him there. So yeah, Ho-Oh does win this end game. So yeah, really some interesting tech there with the Groudon Lumberry, but we're able to pull it out just because we have the tools on the team. Let's look at one more. So it's this Lugia team. So again, the question is this James Beck's Lugia recreation of John's Lugia team, or is this the original John team? And I have no way of knowing until I see some of the moves and how some of the things play out. Right now, I'm just assuming this is James, just because it's a little bit more recent, and you know, people tend to go for more recent stuff. So I'm gonna go with Thundurus. I'm gonna go with Ho-Oh here, and he goes with Grimmsnarl, and he goes with Venusaur. Okay, so the main thing here is, what is this Grimmsnarl? I do want to be able to scout it out. Is it going for screens? Because if it is, that tells me it's James's set. If it's not, that tells me it'll be John's set, right? I don't care what the Venusaur does. So I'm just going to protect my Thundurus first. He goes for Trick. Okay, so this tells me this is John's team. And I see the Sleep Powder going into the Thundurus, but I'm able to Sacred Fire and remove the Venusaur. And now I don't have to worry about sleep for the rest of the game. So here's Lugia here. I do have the option to Dynamax the Thundurus. But I'm just going to swap into my Groudon here because I know he's just going to be doing some kind of shenanigans with the Hailstorm stuff. So this is where Lumberry really paid off for Ho-Oh here. Otherwise, Para would have not been great. I tried to go for the burn. I did not, you know, and look how bulky Lugia is, man. That's crazy. So I protect the Ho-Oh here. I know he's going for the Weakness Policy proc. Now the question is, does he go for the Weather Change? He does not. He just goes for Airstream, which is a stab move. But again, I'm able to get special defense boost against the Grimmsnarl here. I do want to potentially bait an Earth Power here. Not an Earth Power, potential Hailstorm. I just give up the Thundurus here. I don't really need it anymore. I do need the Ho-Oh for the late game. So now that's 2 down, and now he just has a Lugia and a Groudon, and the Groudon just helps my Ho-Oh deal more damage in the sun. But I don't want to take Rock Slide yet. He actually just goes for Air Blast in the hole. Tries to go for the KO right here. There's the bulk up. But again, if we just remove the Lugia, now we can just make it a 3-on-1 against the Groudon here. And this is all we need now because there's very little he can do. I tried to go for the Sacred Fire Burn. I don't get it, but that's okay. Our Groudon should be able to clean things up here. He does get the flinch. But again, we have Venusaur. We have Sleep Powder. I could have just Leaf Stormed him. That probably would have just killed him anyway. There's the P-Blades. Now I decide to go for the Leaf Storm, which is probably more accurate to do on the first turn that Venusaur was out. But again, it's all right. So yeah, nice set of battles there against a Lugia Groudon team. I guess Ho-Oh, the better Gen 2 Mon, able to pull it out. So yeah. So once again, there's our Ho-Oh Groudon team that will probably make a rental code for very, very soon. I think it's a cool team. It has a lot of the sun elements, you know, with Grimmsnarl and Gastrodon and Groudon. The Venusaur is always cool to use, especially with Weakness Policy. And then Ho-Oh is just a cool mon that, you know, you wish it was better, but it's not. But again, if there was a squad to try and support it and make it work, I think this is the one. The only thing I do see is that the ice matchup can be a little bit tricky. Excuse me. One more? No. So you do have to be a little bit careful there. You don't have Incineroar, you don't have Intimidate or Fake Out, but you do have screens. So hopefully you can use that. You do have Yawn and Sleep Powder stuff. So you can compensate in that regard. But yeah, let me know what you think of this Ho-Oh Groudon team. We'll be back with another Series 12 video on the next one. And again, don't forget, if you're interested in team building, that is a tier 3 sub to the channel where you and we will sit down on a Discord call and we will create a team like this where I show you how to do the EV spreads, we hash it out, and if you're trying to play for a tournament or a regional, then we spend even more time on it, and I give you a bunch of feedback on things to consider and try But yeah, that's all done with a tier 3 sub on the channel. Or you can take a look at our tier 2 sub where you just submit a paste that you already created. I fix it up a little bit, I give it back to you, and then I make a video on it just like this. So definitely look into that. But yeah, we'll be back with another Series 12 video in the next one. Peace out.